Hi, everybody. This is your friend, Anthony Burrows. Oh, yes, this is me today, host for Life and Finances with Sacrifice and Service. Now, always remember, hey, I am on your side, and I consider us as sojourners here together in this battle called life. We are in this battle together. Now, I had a real life experience this past week. And it caused me, I should say, it helped me to better understand what radical change through life personal experience is all about. Now, I had a conversation with a very dear friend. I've known her for just over 20 years. And about 2 or 3 Saturday mornings ago, a gentleman came to her neighborhood. He had on his COVID mask and a baseball cap and was alone walking. So she thought to herself, maybe this guy is lost. I've never really seen him before. But in his hand, she noticed he had some bags of groceries and what looked like a job application in the other hand. Now, he went to the next door neighbor, took the bags of groceries as well as the application, which turned out to be a job application, and shortly came back out. He observed her and noticed her, and then on his way out, walked over to her, introduced himself and said the magical words, "How can I help you? How can I help you?" And then she said, "Oh, so you is my MP." She quickly took him to the back of her yard and showed him a structure that was in need of demolition for the past several years now. He took her information and promised that he would call her the next day. And you know what? This guy actually called the next day, and 2 days later a team came from the ministry, demolished the building, and carted away the debris. Wow! As a result, she had conversations with that particular neighbor where he took the groceries to and the job application, and learned that such acts from other persons in the neighborhood were not uncommon for this particular MP. Now here's where the radicalness shows up for me. She has been a supporter for her particular political party for some 33 years now. Regardless of who the candidate was, whether she liked the candidate or not, she supported the party. And she said to me, "You know what, Tony? This time I ain't doing that. No matter what, I am voting for this gentleman, this MP here." I said, "What?" And to me, I was like, oh my goodness, that's a radical change. Now, how did he go about accomplishing this radical change with her? First of all, he touched the vital areas of her and her neighbor's life. He touched her finances. And you know, if you want to get someone in favor or against you, you simply touch their wallet. And here's how he touched her finances, at least. In that, the building to be demolished, she could not afford to pay to have it demolished and the items carted off. She just could not do it. But he took care of that, right? Then he touched the health and safety aspect of her life. Again, this was a building laden down with rodents. You had a lot of roaches, all of the different things, rodent and vectors in the building. And then it was known occasionally to have the occasional vagrant or persons loitering and whatever you said, the crime possibility. So he had the health and safety aspect. Then he touched the nutritional aspect for the neighbors when he brought those groceries. And again, he established the most important thing, a meaningful relationship with the persons in that particular community. Wow! And then finally, he planted in their brain and in their mind a legacy for himself as someone that they could count on. They saw him now as someone that's in the fight with them. So after that, I then posed a question to her. I said, "You have been against everything that the Prime Minister has done. Don't you think a vote for your MP is a vote for the PM?" And she said to me, "Tony, for the first time in my life again, I am going to say this, I'm voting for the man." Radical change, that's what I'm talking about today. That's my topic, radical change. Are you ready for it. Now, I want you to know I am not talking politics, and later on in this discourse, maybe towards the end, I will reveal who that particular MP was, or I should say in this case who he is. But think of radical change. And when people think of radical change, they often think of revolutions. And then you got, I guess, a group moving around now calling themselves the revolution and all of that sort of stuff. But we ain't talking politics. We're talking about individual radical change, revolutionizing your life, if you want to use the word revolution now. Radicalness and revolution has taken place over many centuries. Really and truly, radical change has transpired over the millennials. And you know, 1,000 years makes one millennium. When I think of just local or in general, you have the Pompeii rebellion that transpired in Exuma in 1833. And a year later, 1834, slavery was abolished in the English-speaking Caribbean. Then you have the American Revolution of 1783. You have the French Revolution of 1789, and on you can go. Now, number one, the first step for the radical change in your life, my life, or anybody, is that we must be readers. What did I say? We got to be readers. Cannot be slunkers and slackers. You have to be a reader. These are the people where you see the change happen. Now, thing is, books are written by less than 1% of the world's population. And it's no doubt the same here. To be exact, is 0.0086% of the population that actually writes a book. And the thing is, writing a book calls for hard work and dedication. No wonder it's less than 1%. And most human beings, they don't want to break a sweat, much less go and write a book. Now let's look at some of the data. I should say, at some data relating to persons reading in the general population. This is in the US and worldwide, and then think of some surveys here. Now, when I looked at that, I said it was utter nonsense. They had this thing like 80% of the people reading on. So I say, you know what, there's some publishing company, and they put that information out so that they can get a bigger chunk of the advertising dollars, which was utter nonsense. So the numbers was just too high. But one thing that stood out in the US, right, for instance, because, you know, they do a lot of data mining, 27% of adults said that they read a book in the last 12 months. Now, when you look and go through us in the Bahamas and you go through your little surveys and your observation, we have approximately 10% of our population will have read a book in the last 12 months or a year. So we must now become lifelong learners in order for growth and development to take place in our lives. See, books provide solutions to numerous of life problems. And one of the things that you'll notice, worldwide impactful leaders are always avid readers. Barack Obama, he was an avid reader. Bill Clinton was another avid reader. Abraham Lincoln, avid reader. Fidel Castro, they say, was obsessed with reading. And he did a lot of things in a small, poor place like Cuba. Martin Luther King Jr., an avid reader. A.D. Hanna, Paul Adley, these were men known to have been avid readers. You see, when you're reading, you challenge your mental capacities. It causes the brain cells to go to work and to expand. You see, the greatest investment is when you invest in yourself. Books again, have helped persons to obtain new jobs, and I can identify that when it's time looking for new jobs, get into books. Right? That's one thing. It's helped persons to improve their financial situations drastically. It has changed many lives. Yeah, I know books cost money and reading consumes time, but reading again is the greatest teacher. And this is one of the reasons why the individual books of the Bible were preserved, because the God of heaven and the Holy Spirit know that reading changes lives. And so eventually those books were saved and to be compiled and to eventually become a Bible. You see, reading again is like going into a gold mine and you're digging up all the gold inside there. So you're getting rich through your reading. You're increasing your knowledge and your insight, be it with humanity, be it with whatever it is, a profession, a trade, whatever, a thought, whatever it is. So here's what I want you to do. Set 30 minutes aside every day, that's 7 days a week, simply or just for reading. 30 minutes. Read materials which challenge your thought process. And if you don't understand it, read it again. And if you still don't understand it, read it again and again until you do it. Now look at us. We squander hours daily watching TV, Netflix, watching sporting events. I wouldn't talk about social media, or simply loafing. Which brings me to a point which I want to say a book of the week for this week is Think and Grow Rich. That's a very old book, but it's a very good book, and I suggest persons look at it. Now, number 2, for radical change we're talking about in your personal finances, number 2. Now, most persons in their daily lives, just the majority of persons, they are in an endless struggle and have a lack with a sense of direction. They lack direction and just battling and struggling in this life. You see, daily their thoughts are getting finances together, and it's an ever time consuming consideration for them. They are thinking, oh goodness, how am I going to pay this bill? What about this financial commitment? And then when payday comes, it's like it's Christmas. And then every month or every week, they got the high, they got the low. You got the high, you got the low. You see, in your family, make yourself known as the example on how to go about with your personal finances. Don't be a warning. You know, in the Bible, they have people who are examples that you follow, and then they have people who are a warning that you do not follow. And for many persons, there are poverty traps out there. You say, what is a poverty trap? Now, a poverty trap is any venture or anything that you undertake. For instance, that's a new job, loans, thinking that your financial position will be better, but in the end, your financial position ends up being worse. For instance, you may take a new job, pay you a couple dollars more, but the old job used to provide uniform. The new job doesn't, so that's money out your pocket. The old job had microwaves and things where you could go and heat up your lunch, and had a fridge where you could stick your soda or whatever drink it is you have. The new job, no microwave, no refrigerator. So that's no money coming out your pocket. Same thing, you go to get loans, you're not asking, hey, what's the interest rate? How long do I have to pay? Are there any penalties? On and on. And so you take these things out and then put yourself in a worse position. So a poverty trap is anything that appears that if it's going to improve your position, but in the end, you end up worse off. And now let's look at the types of poverties when you're thinking of personal finance. You have absolute poverty. And that's a situation where most of the times it has to do with the state of the nation itself, what the country is in. But you can see absolute poverty all over the place. When you go to some of your Southern Caribbean countries, you see it. Central and South America. And then you see it when you go to rural America, that's the countryside, or what we might call family island type. So rural America and inner city America, you see this abject poverty. And then, of course, you have, when you're looking at poverty, a relative poverty. And that's a situation where persons can, in a society, but they are not in a position to take advantage of what other persons do when it comes to in a society. Take, for instance, with us. You have many persons, they are working, they have jobs, but you know what? They cannot afford to buy a home. Right? That's relative poverty. They could barely afford to buy transportation. Thank goodness for Japan Direct, so a lot of persons are able to do that. But relative poverty, and you have a lot of persons in your population. Prior to COVID-19, we probably were in a situation where we had 35 to 40% of our population were in relative poverty. We're in a situation now where you probably have up to maybe 40, between 45, taking from 45 to the low end, now up to about 60% of our population are in relative poverty, and that will reverse hopefully as the COVID heads out. Then you have situational poverty. Maybe someone is sick and so that's eating up all of the money. or someone may have lost a job in the family. So those are situational, which means it's only temporary. And then you have that generational poverty, which usually goes with the absolute poverty. And persons in generational poverty, they just pass that on and pass it on, and they're saying, hey, this is the way it's always been, and this is the way it will always be. You see what I'm saying? But you are in a situation now, the way out of poverty. Oh man, it's going to require financial resources, which you'd have to pursue, but usually comes with learning different trades and profession to build your knowledge base where you would have done all that reading. So it's the education. Then sometime it'll be just kind of developing and building connections with friendships. But I'll let you say this. To get out of poverty is called for persistence. And persistence means never taking no for an answer. Got to call for perseverance. That is never giving up. And then you're planning and putting in some hard work. Believe it or not, the Bahamas is a land of opportunity. And the thing is, you can become wealthy no matter where on earth you exist. Wealth is possible. I was looking at it after having a conversation with someone the other day. Here it is. You have, I can never pronounce his name, Aliko Doganto, right? He is the wealthiest black man on earth. And you know what? He lives actually in Africa and in the nation of Nigeria. And his net worth is $8.3 billion, and he's 63 years old. Here it is. People will tell you, oh, Africa is backwards, this, that, and the next. But the wealthiest black man, you figure it would have been in America. But he is in Africa, and he's known as a philanthropist and always out there helping each other. Now, when it comes with this personal finances, here's what I'm asking us to look at. We must take a look at our lives. Examine your past life, but I want you to pay attention to your past failures. Then also look at your successes. Take note of those. And you know, life has this cycle, I like to call it, when it comes to our finances. For instance, we have planning with our finances when it comes to childbirth. Man, we have to start doing that. A lot of people are doing it and then they're only having one child, and gigantic mansions. But in your case, I'm saying, hey, far as possible, I'm of the opinion that every family that have normal, healthy people, man, give it a try and have 3 children at least. But do the planning. So our finances revolve around this: childbirth, wedding dates, and things of that sort. School fees, saving up. And I know a lady now, she's setting aside $200 a month, and her child is in grade 3, and she started it, I guess, when he began grade 3, and so she have until grade 6, so she has 4 years at $200 a month. That's around $2,400 a year, I think, and then over a 4-year period, that'll be like around $9,600 or something like that. So, and then she'll go to one of the high schools when he graduates from the elementary or primary school, goes to private high school, and so she'll have almost $10,000 saved. Then, of course, people save for land, home purchases, starting business, and one of the most important things is saving for retirement. See, you need radicalness to turn your financial life upside down. Most persons and homes and businesses and banks are now in the situation where they have to practice better stewardship in the handling of their money. Money is drying up out there. So, hey, be wise. Be wise. Number 3, radical change in our lives, in your life, is I want you to be the idiot in your group. And here's what I mean by that. Simply ask questions. For most persons in a group, to ask question is, radical. Because we always wish to be the agreeable one and to never ruffle feathers. See, asking questions unravel mysteries and open up opportunities for us. Proverbs once said and says, everyone appears to be telling the truth until one steps forward and asks questions. Reminds me of a story with Simon Sinek, and he is a motivational speaker and consultant and all that for companies. At the time, he was a young executive, and his company had brought in some consultants. At the end of the day now, they brought all the executives together, about 30 of them. The consultants made a presentation after about 2 hours. Any questions, everybody? No questions. So Simon stuck his hand up and he drilled and asked questions for about an hour. After asking all those questions, finally he said, okay, now I understand it. And so what happened was that when the consultants will have left, they have all their compiled report. Now we have to use it and to more or less run the entity, run the company, and what have you. Several days later, when he met up with some of the executives, about 3 of them were with him, they said, we didn't understand that presentation, but it's a good thing you asked all of that questions, and it helped us to understand it. You see, he had to ask until he finally understood. And so what I am saying is, hey, ask questions. For instance, you go to the bank and you're taking out a loan, or you're getting goods and services. You're going for a surgery, you're buying a piece of property, you're getting dental work, whatever. Ask questions. You see, when it comes to our finances or our health, we do not want to take a hit. We must ask questions. And in this life, take nothing for granted. Assume nothing. Must ask questions. Always bear in mind that great beginnings begins with questions. Now, item number 4 and our last item, when you're looking at continuing radical change in your situation. Are you ready? Radical change. Now, for many, the most radical change that's needed is nutrition and a healthy lifestyle. See, the drudgery of life weighs us down. Poor nutrition often attributed to low income. Persons just don't have the income. Then you got persons who have the income and the net worth, but they lack the knowledge. So they still eating junk and gunk. You see, nutrition is this. Basically, a textbook, when you look at it like this, is the consumption of foods necessary for good health and for growth. Now, when we become adults, you may think we aren't growing, but you're replenishing and redoing all of the cells and what have you as you're doing throughout the body. And the cells tend to replenish on a daily basis. Now, I have lived for a short while. I've done my share of observing, and I've read quite a bit of the different studies, especially when it comes to nutrition and health, right? And I've concluded one thing when I've really looked at it, that all things are to be done in moderation. And you know what, when it comes to foods, it's the same thing. Eat from all of the food groups. That's best, I think, to just eat from all of the food groups. See, I'm standing and supporting the biblical way when it comes to eating now, which is, hey, there are certain foods that are said to be clean and unclean, but you could debate that, but I'm just saying that's where I stand, right? And I tell people, hey, basically stay clear of liquor, right? Stay clear of the unclean meats, and don't smoke cigarettes. Now, there are a gazillion different diets out there that you'd hear about. And I say to you, find the one which best suits you, something that you could follow for a lifetime, for the rest of your life. See, bear in mind now, for good nutrition is the quality of the food to start out, but massively the quantity of the food consumed has a lot to do with it. Then giving that system the digestive breaks. You can't be eating all day, every day. Of course, taking in your vitamins and your supplements and your water. Those are the things like that. See, I used to freak out about the GMOs and the organic or inorganic, then the pesticides and on and on and on. But you know what? I don't get caught up in that no more. All things in moderation. Now, obviously, you avoid the known cancer-causing agents. And if you don't know about that, you can go to my YouTube channel, Life and Finances with Sacrifice and Service, and you can look up the post that I did on cancer and the financial cost. You can look at that, right? But the main ingredients and items you have to look at, along with that nutrition, is, hey, sleep. Then the physical activity, food consumption. Oh man, here's the next important one. Solid relationships. If you're in them relationships where you and the person, you're all fussing and rowing all the time, man, that's depleting and bearing down on your health. You see what I'm saying? Then also keep the body, your body that is, and your surroundings clean. And then the next thing is know and understand your family health history. And then conduct yourself accordingly so those things don't come back on you. But the purpose of the nutrition is to prepare you so that you can have the complete and the full life, be it in your finances, be it in you being a lifelong learner, and the preparation so that you can achieve your maximum, whatever it is you wish to accomplish in your life. So I'd like to say, until next time, may the God of heaven and his Son, the Christ, bless and prosper you.